Hey guys, welcome to a completely pointless live chat. And if that doesn't draw you in, I don't know what will. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. And I've spent the better part of the week focused on the Penguins. That's just kind of how things go here. We have to move wherever the action is, and the Penguins play more games than the Steelers do. So I was in Detroit doing my thing up there, and I come back, and now we're just a couple of days away from Steelers versus Bengals in a game that I think is bigger than most people might think. And I really just want to talk about it, and I'm ready to do that with you. If you're on YouTube, that's going to be the best way to communicate. Send in whatever questions, comments, criticisms, whatever it is that you've got. I'm all ears. Don't be shy. My own feel, going to be honest with you here, isn't necessarily a great one. I don't like the trajectory of this team at the moment, and I even allowed for that trajectory to feel good after Philadelphia. Okay, and I was actually kind of what's the word for it here? Berated for that by the general public. How can you say that? How dare you say that they didn't play, or that they played okay in Philadelphia and they were competitive? Because they were. They were actually okay against the Eagles. There were still a lot of positive signs that carried through their successful the run there to 10-3. 10-3 is 10-3. That's a real thing. I saw stuff that I liked in Philly. I didn't see anywhere near as much of that in Baltimore, and then I didn't see any of it against the Chiefs. So the Steelers are where they are right now. To me, the Cincinnati game, the one that's coming up now, absolutely has to represent a giant reset button for this football team. And that's all three phases. We can't even make an exception for special teams anymore, other than, of course, for Chris Boswell. Everybody's got to get back to where they were at the worst. They've got to find a way to overcome that. And in a way, having the Bengals here is kind of perfect for that, because they're rotten defensively. So you might be able to build up some confidence there. They've got a tremendous challenge for you in Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. What you need to see are and not just a higher level of performance, but you also need to see a higher level of results. You need to see them get stuff done. And that's got to happen now. Like TJ Watt was saying earlier today on the South Side, the time for talking is over. This is when you got to get it done on the field. This isn't about discussing and debating stuff, much less, how did Mike Tomlin put it, the bickering and whatever else. Anyway, listen, here's how this works. You send in stuff, I answer it, or I don't answer it, or you send in comments and I address them, or I don't address them, or whatever. So let's do this. After I say hi to everybody who has already stepped up and said hi. Ken says, DK, I know you don't watch Hard Knocks. I don't. But Mike Tomlin was as good as he was when they beat the Bengals. Players just didn't execute and communicate. What are your thoughts? I don't know what this would have to do with Hard Knocks, Ken. It's just a bunch of cameras. And anybody who, by the way, wonders about the validity of Hard Knocks and how much it is that they show, answer this for me. How much of this mystery person that the Steelers are all upset about have they let you in on? Oh, nothing, right? Nothing? That's my understanding. It's been nothing. That means you're not seeing a thing. You're not seeing anything that they don't want you to see. What did you actually ask here? Tomlin was as good. No, nobody's been as good. Nobody's been as good. I'm sorry. Nobody's been as good. That includes the head coach. No matter how you feel about any of these individuals in general. Clint Novak says, Happy New Year. Same right back to you, my man. Could you please rate these in order of likelihood for the next year? Wilson at quarterback, Fields at quarterback, or someone else altogether? It's going to be Russ. If you ever do the exercise where you extrapolate, all right, let's say the season ends, after one playoff loss, okay? And then you look at your general field for quarterbacks, who's available internally, who's available externally, the list isn't very long externally. Okay. Russ is one of them. Sam Darnold is another. I think there are a couple others. And you go, okay. And then you say, all right, well, the Steelers, of course, can draft a quarterback, but where are they going to be picking? I mean, this is a 10-win team already. So you want another Kenny Pickett? They're going to bring Russ back. I'd like to see them bring Justin Fields back, but nobody's going to ask me. Chris says, hey, DK, do you think Broderick Jones and Dan Moore will continue to struggle as the Steelers head into the playoffs? I'll tell you what, Chris, without making some kind of forecast or whatever, what are your eyes telling you? They're getting certain things done, to their credit, between Brod and Dan as it relates to zone blocking on the run. That's why you're seeing more success for Jalen Warren than you are for Najee Harris. They're not getting the pass blocking done. They're getting beat on the pass rush. Russell Wilson taking forever to extend plays isn't helping things, but they're still getting beat. So I don't have any cause here to say, yeah, they're just going to magically turn it around. I will say this, though, going against the Bengals, Trey Hendrickson, who's the NFL leader in sacks right now, was a total no-show in that game in Cincinnati against the Steelers. And that's to the credit of everybody involved in the Steelers process. And that would be a nice thing for them to be able to put together. Ant asks, DK, do you think the defense has regressed due to Mike Tomlin not allowing Terrell Austin to run the scheme he wants? My friends, not everything related to the Steelers has to be narrative based. Not everything has to sound like it emanated from a soap opera. Okay. They've been bad. That's it. There's not necessarily drama involved in that. I don't like the lack of blitzing. Okay. I've been saying this for a while, even when they were effective with just rushing the same five guys. I feel like it's part of the Steelers' culture, their character, to go after the quarterback, to occasionally at least send the house. They haven't. If you want to blame Austin or Tomlin for that, that's fine. But no, none of this. What is it? Tomlin not allowing? Come on. Not everything has to be some kind of thing that we're. Why is it that Steelers fans are the only ones that do this? I'm not talking about football. I'm talking about in Pittsburgh. They're the only ones that actually do this. Domestic Creation says, DK, do you actually think that if the Steelers beat the Bengals, they'll get back on track, or it'll be just a little Dutch boy sticking his finger back into the dam? First of all, you're actually, the way you phrase that question makes it sound like I've said this at some point. I haven't. The Steelers need to reset so that they can be their best selves. And they need to reset not only in the results category, they need to reset in terms of their performance. And I'm going to say it once more, all three phases. If you do that, you at least have a prayer of entering the playoffs with a clean slate. Sia says, DK, how do you keep positive after 10 years of the same results with Tomlin? Honestly, I don't know if you're asking about me or if you're asking in general, how do people keep positive? I'm not the keep positive type. I'm a reporter. Okay, we don't do that. You attempt as a reporter, whether you're a beat writer, which means delivering news, whether you're an analyst, which means mostly breaking down plays and so forth, or whether you're a guy who does opinions like I do, both in writing and in speaking, you're just looking for what's fair. That's all. If that means ripping the living hell out of everybody, that's what I do. I'm not sitting here trying to be positive. I'm definitely not sitting here trying to be negative. There's not a difference there for me. George says, DK, love all your content and listen from either the car. Thanks, man. Or in this case, walking the dog. George is walking the dog right now. I think that's a guitar term too. Maybe some of you guitarists can remind me. Wasn't there something walking the dog, or was that a yo-yo term? I think it was walking the dog. Do you think the Steelers being basically 100% healthy, George asks, could help with continuity and performance? Well, yeah. I mean, let's just talk about the defensive side. If you get your guys back in the secondary, and all indications are, well, I shouldn't say that because Dante Jackson had a bit of a setback today. If you have Joey Porter out there, you're a better secondary. Okay. I think if you have Beanie Bishop out there over Cam Sutton, you're a better secondary, but I don't think that's going to happen because the coach isn't going to want to admit he was wrong. If you don't have Jackson, not as good. I mean, we saw Dante come up with 5 picks, and those weren't an accident. Having Deshaun Elliott back at full strength is a big thing. It could make a difference with continuity and performance, but it doesn't autopilot itself. I mean, you still have to get things done. They have to get things done. I'll tell you this much. They can't be of the mind that, well, we're facing Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, so it's okay to give up 38 points like we did last time in Cincinnati. It's not. Bark Z says, DK, do you think Christian Kuntz got screwed out of the Pro Bowl? I'll tell you what. There are guys who get a lot of votes, and I know that's what you're referring to. So Kuntz led, for anybody who doesn't know what Bark is referencing here, he led all Pro Bowl voters at long snapper, just like Miles Killebrew led in votes for special teams guys, and neither of them made it in. Let's be honest here. Not one person who cast a vote for either of those guys has any idea what kind of season they had. And I would like to think that the people who made the selections are aware of such things. So, no, the Steelers have a lot of fans. They're a very popular team, and they're popular outside of Pittsburgh, which means that you're going to win a lot of votes that maybe you shouldn't win. So I have no idea. I'm not here to BS you and sit here and break down the season that the Steelers have had at long snapping. Calvin says, DK, is it truly as simple as fixing communication issues on defense? No. Let me put that in all capital letters and cover up the entire downtown headquarters here. No, they have so much work to do in so many areas. But the biggest one, I feel, is that they have been exposed as too strong. But they've been countered. The rest of the NFL has punched back, to borrow an old Clint Hurdleism from when he was the Pirates manager. He would say there'd be a hitter who'd be really locked in and would be hitting baseballs all over the place and be really effective. And then somebody on some team somewhere figured out, whoa, dude can't hit the changeup. And they would throw him nothing but changeups. All of a sudden, they punched back. So now it's his turn to punch back on the punchback. The Steelers haven't done that. The rest of the league is on to the Steelers never blitzing. Okay? I'm going to state that as frankly as I possibly can. And the Steelers, in turn, have done Zippo to counter it, other than let's just hunker down and be who we are. Well, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you have to change things. There are no indications that they're going to do that. There are no indications that they're going to be changing anything. Nobody special comes in and says, why did the Steelers sign Isaac Seumalo from Philadelphia to come here in zone block when there wasn't any zone tape on Isaac? Now, that's some pretty specific stuff, my friend. When you're acquiring a free agent, when you're prepared to invest, and in Isaac's case, it was $24 million over 3 years, you're going to have an intensive knowledge, ideally, of what that player can and can't do. Twin that with the Steelers having Andy Weidel as their assistant GM, and you'll see that there's a lot of background that they would have on this particular player. So I would not worry as to whether or not they knew what Isaac could or couldn't do. And Isaac's been fine, by the way. Of all the people that we'd want to talk about on the offensive line, he would be dead last. You know, he's been okay. He's not perfect. He'll get beat occasionally, but he's been fine. Beyond the Backyard says, why did the Steelers refuse to put Jaylen Warren in at RB1 when he has outperformed Najee Harris for years. Without turning this into another Jalen versus Najee, and if you're a longtime listener or reader of mine, first off, thanks. Second, you'll know that I'm a Jalen guy. The Steelers are at their most effective when they're both going. Okay. And I think that's something that even the Jalen people and the Najee people and all the people in between can agree on. They're better when they're both going. They're very, very challenging to stop when they're both going. It doesn't mean they're equal. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. Just like when Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams were both going. Two very different types of running backs. For those of you who go back a few years with the Steelers, Lev was the patient, wait, find the hole, kind of sneak through the hole guy. And then once he got there, he could make some good stuff happen. D'Angelo was the diagonal slasher who could hit the holes. He didn't wait for anything, and that threw the defense off. This isn't quite that, and they definitely don't have the line that those two guys had, but it's some of that. You need them both going. That's the diplomatic but also correct answer that I'm going to give you here. Patriot Watch says offense wins championships. The Steelers are stuck in the old NFL. Play defense and run the ball. No. In fact, just to really support my no here, you're going to have to give me a second because I want to call up a statistic that I know is there, but I want to make sure that I'm reading it off to you correctly. In the 2025 NFL, counter to some misperceptions like yours, the teams that are atop the rushing leaders, if you'll pardon my trying to dance around all of these ESPN rollover ads that are so obnoxious. Team statistics, offense, rushing. All right, you ready? These are the teams that are atop the rushing table in the NFL right now. Number 1, Eagles, pretty good football team. Number 2, Ravens. Number 3, Commanders. Number 4, 5, 6, the Lions. So right there, 4 out of the top 6 teams in rushing are, some of the top teams in football. The Bills are at 9. The Steelers are at 10. This is just the top 10 in rushing. So are they trying to be Chuck Noll or stuck in the 70s? Or have they just, I'm going to use the term again, counterpunched? Meaning the whole league got so comfortable with everybody being pass happy that all it takes is 1 or 2 teams. And I give the Ravens and Lamar Jackson more credit for this than anybody else, to do something that's different. And come out there and say, listen, if you're going to put 7 DBs out there, we're going to trample you. We're going to be huge. And we're just going to run you over. Robert Clark says, Najee reminds me of Tim Worley. Wow, talk about going to the past. You feel that he should be better than he actually is. Hi from Tuckton, UK. Hi yourself, Robert. I don't know that Tim Worley's a good example. Tim Worley didn't have 1,000-yard type seasons on any sort of regular basis. Phil says, why not play Najee and Warren at the same time instead of the Patterson-Warren plays? Because they don't do that. Nobody does that. There's no Franco and Rocky anymore. That, my friend, is being stuck in the 70s. Let's see what else we got. Mike comes in and says, who should we expect to see in the wild card round back from injuries, and how will that impact the team? I mean, the injury situation right now isn't any different than it's going to be at that time. You're not going to have some miraculous comeback, I believe. I know that there's a lot of people, just to throw out a name here, that would love to see Troy Fautanu come back. I don't think that even if he were to come back, that you would see him just thrust into action. He had himself obviously a pretty significant injury. And for better or worse, at least the guys that you have at the tackle positions in Broderick Jones and Dan Moore have been out there for a while. They're in game gear. So I don't know that there's anybody like that. The guy that's iffy right now, again, is Dante Jackson. Captain Crunch asks, what is going on? Did something happen, or is this just a random stream? Totally random. Dude, I was sitting here. I was working on something else for tomorrow. I'm all alone here at the downtown headquarters, and we're obviously not open. It's 8:21 p.m. And I just happened to be doing stuff, and I just felt like talking football. So take it or leave it. You can turn it off if you don't want to talk football. But that's what I'm doing here. Bark Z says, DK, let's say that Arthur Smith gets a head coaching job next season. Do you see the Steelers promoting someone within or potentially going after someone who I'm not feeling a Smith getting a head coaching job. Okay. If you're looking for a guy right now, if you're one of those teams that's out there that's perpetually looking for someone, the Carolinas and so forth, do you want Arthur Smith? I love the guy, okay? And I'm saying this with respect, and I'm saying this while acknowledging that his situation in Atlanta wasn't necessarily the best, but he was there for 3 years with the Falcons, didn't succeed. And then you come to Pittsburgh, and the offense, yes, it's been better than what it was, but is he getting some kind of raves as some sort of offensive mastermind, the next generation? No, and that's usually what leads into head coaching jobs. So I'll answer your question by basically avoiding it and saying that I don't think it's going to happen. The Tao Master says, I feel like Russell Wilson has been 50% slow to release the ball over the last 3 games, and the other 50 is the O-line not blocking. I don't agree with that one at all. The plays, the design of the plays is long. And then from there, Russ he thinks he can still get out of there like he did 10 years ago in Seattle, and he can't. He thinks he can still get out of there the way Justin Fields still can, and that's enough to drive you nuts because none of that is true. And it's, to me, the single number one problem with this offense is that the plays they're running take too long to develop, and they put too much on a line that can't handle it. Get it a whole heck of a lot simpler here. Cobra says, DK, I'm generally a very pro Tomlin person, but after the Chiefs game, one thing stuck out to me. When is the last time the Tomlin went into a game against a better team and outcoached the other coach? I hear that one a lot. I'm actually going to open up the Steelers schedule for you and answer that with, an actual thing. The Steelers beat the Chargers. Are they a better team than the Steelers? I mean, they have a better defense than the Steelers do. Is Jim Harbaugh a better coach than Tomlin? Some people would say that he is. The Steelers beat the Ravens. They won that game 18-16. That game was here in Pittsburgh. Are the Ravens a better team than the Steelers? Yeah, probably. 9 Pro Bowlers today. Is John Harbaugh a better coach? I guess that depends on what day you're asking the question. They beat, who else did they beat? The Bengals. So this season alone, they've had a couple. There usually aren't that many of those that you get, no matter which coach you are. I feel like this is just one of those unfortunate, tired, often repeated, not often considered things that gets thrown out there. It's a lot like the stupid coaching tree thing. That one, the coaching tree thing makes me insane. I don't think half of the people who bring up the coaching tree thing even know what it means. Tony says, how much would it be to actually hire a game manager coach? Are you talking about the clock, Tony? Are you talking about the clock management? And you think it's because of money? It's not. It's not. It doesn't cost that much. That wouldn't be the issue. The issue would be that Tomlin prefers to have a smaller coaching staff. And the reason that he prefers that, if you talk to people on the inside like I do, is that he likes to have full control. He doesn't want to worry about how many different people might be, chit-chatting with the players about things that they shouldn't be chit-chatting about, or chit-chatting with people like me about things that they shouldn't be chit-chatting about. That's just how he rolls. That doesn't have anything to do with money, as you seem to be implying there. Jay says, then is Tomlin an X's and O's guy or a player motivator? We're starting to nosedive here, people. We can do better than this. This is radio talk show stuff here. Let's talk about actual football. This is just talk show fodder. I don't mean to be mean here, but this is Bill from Blonox calling in. I love you, Jay. I know you're with us all the time, but I also know that you can do better than this sort of thing here. We have real football stuff to address before a real football game a couple days from now. Fox Den says, with how Russ has looked over the past few games, would Justin Fields get a start in the postseason if Russell looks atrocious Saturday night? I think that's a good question, but I also think that there's almost nothing Russ can do aside from getting, hurt that would cause that to happen. You would be bringing in someone who's, it's been a while since Justin's been out there for more than a snap or two. And that's not a good thing. Remember how Justin hurt the abdomen? I don't remember what city were we in. I can picture the locker room, but I can't remember where we were when Justin got hurt. It was on the road. Anyway, it wasn't that long ago. It was like a month ago. Oh, it was in Philly. And he ran one play, and there it was. And that's what happens when you're not out there. You have to be at game speed or you're risking getting hurt, and you're just not with it. That's why Sam says here, is Justin even healthy? Anybody in any walk of life who's had an abdominal injury or a pull in this area knows that those don't go away quickly. They will stick with you sometimes for months, even if they're not significant. Jim says, what should the NFL do to improve officiating? My view is the NFL has done plenty to improve officiating and that it's not that bad. I know that's not going to be a popular view, but when you look at the ratio of calls that get butchered versus the ratio of calls that are really, really, really good, and by the way, nobody ever talks about, I think the NFL is doing better than ever. And having the eye in the sky effect, that has also made things better. Jim says, I'm going to take a couple more today. Am I? Yeah, we can do a half hour on this. I got to go eat some food. Jim says, what should the NFL... Oh, wait, I already got that one. This is other Jim. Jim says, hey, DK, any chance that the Steelers take a look at signing T. Higgins or trading for Garrett Wilson in 2025? I don't believe that Omar Khan, and specifically Omar, has received enough criticism, and maybe this will come after the season, because I don't hear it now at all, for what he has not done with the wide receiver room. Everybody talks about the defense is the highest paid in the NFL, and it is. You know who's got the lowest paid wide receiver room in the NFL? Now, that's partly because George is still on his rookie contract, and it's also partly because they didn't bother paying anybody else. Van Jefferson comes in at a couple million. That's your big free agent. That's not okay, and it was never okay. People could see that truck coming from miles away. And yet there was nothing done about it until Mike Williams was added at the trade deadline. And then the reaction to Williams coming in is, oh, he scores a touchdown to win the game in Landover. And then he isn't seen again. So my answer to Higgins is that Higgins might be the most coveted guy at any position. And if the Bengals let him go, they're just idiots. So my feeling is that he's going to stay. They're going to find a way to keep him. Maybe Burrow does a restructure or something like that, because Joe doesn't want him to go either. Why would he? Justin says, do you think that George Pickens would get more targets if he came back to Russ when he gets in trouble? George does some of that. Yeah, he's not great at it. But I think the better solution to that, I keep sounding like I'm avoiding everybody's questions, and I'm not. It's just that it makes me think of something else. How about if Russ doesn't get in as much trouble? How about if these plays don't take 7 seconds to develop? That's a better approach. How about if you just hit George, boom, quick slant right across the middle? How about that? Queen of Spades says, why aren't our front four getting heavy and steady pressure sacks on opposing offenses? Because they figured it out. The Steelers aren't doing anything different against any opponent in any situation. Okay? They're not blitzing ever. ever. They're not even doing it just to kind of shake things up and make you go, whoa, hey, we didn't see that on film. And I don't think they're going to start. I don't think they're going to start on Saturday night either. They're just going to say, well, we beat Burrow once. Just need to hunker down, men. Rob Thomas says Mike Williams has 8 catches in 8 games. Yeah, I know. And some of them have been really good catches. And again, one of them got you one of your 10 wins. Caleb says, is moving TJ around the only answer to getting him double and triple teamed? Don't presume that TJ's getting that many double and triple teams, because he's not. He's getting chipped, but he's also, look, he's not going to say this. The coaches aren't going to say this. I'll say this. He's not himself because that ankle wasn't 100%. Now, he needed this break, I think, as much as anybody on the roster. So let's wait to see what ends up happening when it comes to his health. Bark says, DK, do you see George becoming a problem when it'll come to contract negotiations? We can do that one in the offseason. Man, everybody loves it. People think that it's the media that loves narratives. No. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I hate this stuff. I just want to talk football. Slap Murphy says, Dejan, even your answers can be read as Mike Tomlin is the problem. There's no such thing as the problem in a team sport, with very, very few exceptions. The head coach is not the problem any more than the head coach is the reason that you get to 10-3. Justin Watson says Van Jefferson has the 48th most snaps and is 151st in cumulative EPA. I don't doubt that. I mean, this was just not a good offseason for Omar in that sense. He did have he and Weidl and Tomlin, I should say jointly, they kind of operate as a unit. Clint wants to know if Pittsburgh has a direct flight to Houston if needed. Come on, dude. We're not some village here. Yeah, we have multiple flights per day to Houston. In fact, I think we have it on multiple airlines. Southwest goes, is it American? American goes to Houston? No, American goes to Dallas. It's United that goes to Houston. Yeah, we have flights to Houston, dude. Now you're making me want to end the show. Frank says 3 games in 11 days. They say that they're for player safety BS when they're asking for trouble. Yeah, all of these teams that were involved in 3 games in 11 days had the same set of circumstances. And for what it's worth, did the Steelers really lose anybody to injury, or is a player safety issue out of that? Dante Jackson doesn't really count because he's had the back issue all year. He's just been able to manage it. Calvin wants to know, what is the best Starbucks location in America? Well, I speak from personal experience, and it's the one right across the street here on Fifth Avenue downtown, because those are my people over there. Let's take one more. No, we already asked this one about Warren being the guy over Najee. I need a good question here from somebody. This is Bark Z coming in, misspelling Chuck Knoll's name. That's an immediate disqualification. In fact, that can get you ejected for life, misspelling the Emperor's name. This one comes from, here's a Serb. Let's do that. William Macevic. Boy, you'd think I would have an easy time with that one, but I'm not. Macevic, it's not one I've seen before. Anyway, what happens to the drag route that AB made famous with the killer ABs? I have no idea what that means. Rick is going to get us done here. He's going to do it. Do you think that the Steelers will use the middle of the field Saturday? Pat Freiermuth and short to intermediate passes over the middle hurt Cincinnati. Well, it did the one time. Okay, yeah, I know what you're thinking of, the game last year in Cincinnati where Kenny Pickett was able to hit Freiermuth. It was 9 times for like 150 yards. He looked like a version of Travis Kelce that day. The Bengals did adjust in the game that they played later in the season in Pittsburgh. They weren't great, but that really wasn't a thing last time. What happened last time, that you don't have to use the middle of the field. What you need to do with the Bengals is they play in the softest, most pathetic zone. Is you just need to get someone the football in space. Some of the players the Steelers players were telling me this in Cincinnati earlier this season, including Freiermuth, that they felt like they could just move a little bit, get a little bit open, make sure that Russ could read what they were doing, and man, off they went. Because in addition to that, the Bengals secondary guys can't tackle at all. I mean, this is a really, really bad defense. All right, guys. I have no idea why I did this, but I'm glad I did. This was fun here. Queen of Spades says, thanks for the cues. Other way around. I sure the heck didn't think we'd have 2,000 people in here. But here's the deal. The Chipotle that's in Market Square over there closes in like 24 minutes, and I need to get over there. You know how long it takes to order that stuff? Because you got to point to what all it is that you want. Well, I actually want 2 of them. So I got to do twice as much pointing. So there's a daily shot tomorrow morning. There's a double shot tomorrow afternoon. And then, of course, there's the football game, and we'll do something after that one as well. Thanks so much for being part of this. Seriously, you guys are really cool. Like, there was no heads up for this at all.